If your siblings ask you for money, can you say no? What of your parents? If your parents ask you to send them urgent 30k, can you say no? You see, today we'll be talking about black tax. And it will be quite an interesting one. And for that reason, I decided to start in the manner that I did. So, welcome back to Madness in Nigeria, and I'm your host, Gesi. See, the term black tax was coined by the South Africans. It's a situation wherein a worker, usually a black person in this case scenario, send money back to their family, their poorer family. So the money they are earning, they use it to take care of their poorer family. Beautiful concept here. It shows a sense of community that is getting rarer and rarer in this hyper-individualistic world. And so for that reason, I'm going to tell us how to be hyper-individualistic. And it's like, how am I saying a beautiful concept? And then I'm saying we should be more hyper-individualistic. Now, back to the concept called black tax. See, in itself, it's not a bad thing. Honestly speaking, if you can afford it, it's something you want to do. So let's look at what black tax might look like. Me, as a person, when I first moved to Lagos, I stayed with a distant relative. This is not even a close relative. He was informed that I was moving to Lagos. I stayed with him for a couple of months before I rented an apartment. In fact, I actually rented an apartment 1 month with staying with him, but I ended up staying with him like 6 more months before moving to the apartment I rented. That's black tax. He didn't have to accommodate me in his house, but he did, because we are sort of related. At the apartment I rented, my immediate elder sister, paid for the rent. That's black tax. So as someone like myself who has enjoyed black tax, what am I here to tell you is bad? Fair, interesting warning. Or to my siblings watching this, I beg, if you have money to send to me, I do accept. But let's see why black tax is a bad thing. See, the vast majority of my viewers range from the age of 24 to 35. That makes up about 90% of my viewers. And it's important to note that most people in this age bracket are not financially stable enough to take care of someone else. This bracket is also the bracket that are beginning to start their family. So I decided to talk about this concept because it's very important to know that in one hand, it's a good thing to help your family when you can. In another hand, you have to be wise about it. Where the term black tax has a negative connotation is because of the word tax in it. A tax isn't like just a normal bill, like normal billing. You can choose to pay a bill or not pay a bill. If you don't pay a bill, you are just going to be inconvenient. But when it comes to tax, you have to pay, or it's a criminal offense. So when it's used in context with this concept of giving back to the family, it shows an inherent negativity to it. Why is that negativity there? See, the vast majority of people who pay the black tax eventually get to the point of suffocation, frustration, and guilt that they will feel this way. Now, let's go back to history books. See, when our colonial masters, I think I have an habit of talking too much about our colonial masters. Let me fast forward. See here, a lot of Nigerians are in the poverty line. For a lot of people in this poverty line bracket, it's very interesting to think of long-term investment as something that can never be achievable. Why? Because they are immediate needs. And one of those immediate needs is taking care of your children. When you have spent money to take care of your children, it seems like a no-brainer for them to spend money back on you. Like, it's to be expected, really. It's to be expected for you to spend back at the person who took care of you. Because One can argue they didn't have to take care of you. Same way you can argue where you didn't decide to be born, but those arguments are irrelevant. The most important thing here is this. Do you feel you have a choice when it comes to giving back to your family? That's the most important question. Do you feel you can decide not to and it won't be an issue? If you feel you can't decide to tell your parents no, to tell your siblings no without becoming a bad person immediately, then there's an issue. Why is that an issue? Because when you are within the age bracket I mentioned, 25 to 35, that's where you are thinking of making long-term financial decision. If you are looking at retiring early, if you are looking at having vacations in your 60s, in your 50s, you have to start planning for it now. If you're even looking at starting your family and having your children go to college and go to the best school, you have to start investing now. But if, as you are earning your first set of money, you are barely making anything, most Nigerians don't earn up to 100k, you have to send back a big portion of that money back to your family every time. And it's not like you have a choice in it. It feels like you're supposed to do it in a way that it's almost heartbreaking. I know of people that the moment they finished uni, no, scrap that. I know of people that the moment they got to uni, their parents removed their hands and it's like you're supposed to find a way to take care of your siblings. At that age, at that young age of trying to balance school with earnings, it's a very tricky thing, and that's not unique to a few Nigerians. That's not even unique to Nigerians. It's experienced across Africa, hence the name black tax. Like I said, it was coined in South Africa. So, if we feel we are obligated to take care of our family, how does this lead to generational causes? Because that's what I'm trying to argue here. My premise is black tax leads to generational causes, and the causes I'm talking about now is poverty, is bad blood, is resentment, is not even having a good sense of your moral viewpoint. You have no moral compass. I'm arguing all of this links to black tax. Is this a stretch? Some people will argue it's a stretch. Well, what can I say? You have your opinion. This is my own argument. When it comes to this obligation here, I am of the viewpoint that ethical deeds are a choice. So it's what you ought to do, but you are choosing to do it. That's how I see ethics. I feel anything you are doing at gunpoint, like you have no choice in it, is inherently a bad thing. That's my viewpoint. Like I said, not everybody will agree with this. But why am I stating this now from an ethical perspective? What black tax can do to you is you feel guilty when you start thinking of the hardship of budgeting for someone else or for a group of other people while you are just beginning to earn your first set of money. Now, I'm not telling you to not give. I'm saying, what does that giving look like? Imagine earning, I want you to say NYSC right now, 33k or so. Imagine earning 33k from NYSC and you're expected to send back money to train your siblings. You're expected to send back money to buy food stuff at home. You're expected to send back money every time. It gives you the impression of living short term. It gives you the impression of living from today to tomorrow, anywhere belle face na front. And when you live with anywhere belle face na front mindset, there are a lot of opportunities lost. Because one of the reasons they call it black tax is that a vast majority of people who experience this can't save as well as their counterpart that earn the same amount but lives in a more individualistic lifestyle. And like I said at the beginning of this episode, I am someone who would have experience of black tax, and the benefit of black tax, like I said, a soft landing. When I came to Lagos, I needed a soft landing. So for a lot of people, that having to do that for someone else is something that feels good. But it only feels good as much as it is a choice. But when you feel it's something you have to do, it makes you feel not seen in your family. It makes you feel an emotional burden. It can lead to depression. Because in one hand, you feel forced, you feel a lack of free will. In another hand, you want to do what you think is right, but it feels wrong, so you feel there's something wrong with you. That burden is that psychological burden triggers you, and that's why most times when you have that kind of black tax in your life, a phone call from your parents could just get your body tense. A phone call from your sibling, a random message from your sibling is like, why you the message? This is what we are trying to all in here. Another thing you have to understand about the black tax here is, if you have to send that money and you don't have a choice and you don't feel seen in your family, there's the escapism ideology that comes with it. There's the dream of traveling out of the country and locking up. You don't know your family members again. There's the dream of traveling to a new city. Some people go as far as the dream of dying. And this is where it can get very, very wicked. I've had friends that they can only conceptualize freeing themselves from this through their death. And that's not how one should live. Because when that kind of tax is on your money and on your mental, it drains you, and that drainage ironically removes the creative juice that can lead to you making more money, that can lead to you sending more money easily. But is that all there is to it? Is it all truly negative? In one hand, there's the soft landing for the people you are helping. In another hand, there's the burden on you. There's also the fact that the people you are helping can become very complacent. Because most times when you experience these black tax, you do not have the liberty to communicate your actual view. So you can't create that clear boundaries that can make the people you are sending the money to know that you are helping them in a way that the help can stop at any point. In a way that they don't have to be dependent on you, but because you can't even communicate that to begin with, that dependency naturally exists. And that's why you see that a lot of people that are recipients of the black tax find it difficult to build wealth themselves. They find it difficult to make good of the wealth. How many stories have you heard of someone that is in UK, USA, sending pounds and dollars to their family, and the family is still proper poor? How many of those stories have you heard? How many of those stories have you heard of them sending over money to invest and then the family squanders the money? Why? Because they feel like it's their money. This keeps on happening. But it doesn't have to be so. Like I mentioned, historically, Africa is seen through the lenses of a communal living. And there's a lot of evidence backing this. So a communal living is not necessarily a bad thing. But we have to understand that we live in a very capitalist world that is very individualistic. And in this capitalist world, a lot of things can lead to poverty. It's just looking at the numbers. If you're looking at the numbers, which is better? Being able to invest in a way that by the time you have your own children, you don't have to be a financial burden to them when they are trying to get going, when they are trying to get their own money. Because in a capitalist world like the one we live in, money moves exponentially. If you have the money to invest, it keeps on growing at an exponential rate. So even if you don't have a lot of wealth to pass down to your kids, not just being a financial burden on them, gives them a better landing than someone that is trying to take care of their own family. And you taking care of your family now, what can you do? Fundamentally, that's the point I would like to give, what you can do. But I just want you to know, I'm talking to you, I just want you to know, it's not a bad thing for you to feel bad about not wanting to give them. It's normal for you to feel that way. And you are not alone in this. You are not alone, but there are things that can be done to make it better. In a playful note, please, people of the Lord that plan on sending me money normally, still send. I'm going to accept. But back to what can be done. For one, easy communication. But like I already said, if you grow up in this kind of home that is ingrained in you, communication is almost impossible. So how can you communicate with these people? There's communication of the intent of money. So let's explain it this way. You have a younger brother, you have a younger sister that wants to pay school fee. They ask for money, you want to send them money. Most times, it's easier to just send it to that family member directly, or worse, sending it to your parents. But I would advise you, if you can get the school directly and pay the school fee directly, do that. What this communicates is intentionality with the money. The money being sent is sent for a specific purpose. And another thing is, hold them accountable to the money. So if the money is being sent to buy foodstuff, ask for proof of the foodstuff. Now they can falsify it, but it keeps a reminder in their mind that there's intentionality with this money being sent. Because when you create that intentionality, especially for younger siblings, they start understanding, one, to appreciate the work you are doing, but two, to also understand that they cannot be dependent on you. For most of you, you don't know, I'm a last born, but I can't start thinking, oh, because I'm a last born, I have to be dependent. My parents got to do this, my siblings got to do this. Nah, it's how can I make money for myself? How send to my siblings? That's the idea. But it's a choice for me, and that choice is something that I enjoy. Like, I enjoy when I send money to my mom. I just feel good. But see the thing, I was talking about how I felt good about sending money to my mom, to a friend, and she looked so sad. She was like, she cannot relate. And she sends money to her mom way more than I do, but she can't relate because for her, it feels like there's no choice in it. If it's not done, war, fight, complain. You are an ungrateful child. I took care of you. I gave birth to you. So, how can you free yourself with that? I've mentioned intentionality with the money to communicate that this is a tool for making more wealth. Now, another thing you can do is direct communication. Try to enlighten your people financially. But before you even get to that point, you have to enlighten yourself financially. How do you budget? Do you hold yourself accountable? Do you set boundaries around your money that you yourself respect? When you do that, it's easier for you to communicate that to someone else. If you find it difficult to keep your money, like you're trying to save money and one day you just go to buy clothes. I'm not saying buying clothes is bad, but I'm just saying from your savings. All these things makes it harder for you to communicate money to your family. Yes, your family needs the money, but there's a difference between need and want, and most times we fail to understand which is which. And you can only discern the difference when you understand and respect money for yourself. So you understand your own wants, you understand your own needs, and you know how to go about it. You set money aside. Another thing you can do to help with this black tax is, when you're setting money aside to send to these people, don't send everything at once. One, also don't send it too quickly. Like, if it's not a life or death situation, don't send the money immediately. If someone asks you for the money, wait a couple of days. It creates the mental state of this money being sent is not easily made, one, and this money being sent means a lot to this person. It creates appreciation, because something that we fail to understand about the black tax is most times it leads to resentment from the person sending it and resentment from the person receiving it. Yes, Because you sending it feel like there's no choice in this. The person receiving it feels entitled to your money. And when you start setting all these boundaries out of nowhere, it feels like, oh, because you don't make money now, you show yourself. Especially for Nigerians in the diaspora. What we don't understand is most Nigerians in the diaspora struggle to make the dollars, the pounds. But we expect them to just send back money. And mind you, most of the money being sent from the diaspora to Nigeria makes our economy worse. Why? Because it's not being sent for investment. It's not being sent for education. Most times it's sent for upkeep. And that upkeep usually leads to consumerism, which usually just makes everything worse. That excessive lifestyle makes the dependency worse, makes the stress on the person sending the money worse, makes the entitlement worse. But if you educate them financially and you send the money for financial purposes, first of all, it helps the economy. One, it also teaches them how to make money for themselves, to create wealth. And when they do, that's the generational wealth we speak of. It starts small, but bit by bit, that's how you make the wealth. Is educate them, educate yourself, educate them, and see how this money can be sent in a way that is being used for like the appropriate reason. Then the last thing here I want to mention is when you create these boundaries, you have to understand that there will be multiple times you have to say no. You can make it clear, oh, I receive money once a month too, so I can only send you money once a month. If it's not a life or death emergency, nothing for you. This is something that I, for one, I particularly appreciated that my mom did when I first gained admission to uni. After my first month of, like, midway into the first month, I got that I was out of money. She just laughed and told me, this is the first and last time I'm going to send you money twice in 1 month. I get paid monthly and you are going to receive your stipends monthly. It showed me intentionality with money. And from that viewpoint, I started readjusting my life. I started making structural readjustment, and money that I finished within 2 weeks started lasting me more than a month. That's what I'm saying can be done with the rest of the family. Another thing is, if you're helping your family members, don't make it unlimited. You know, be Black Jesus. You can't help everybody. Don't do more than you can afford to do. Don't do the one that is hurting your long-term plan. And most importantly, create a clear distinction with, this is what I'm helping you with, this is what I cannot help you with, and what this one I'm helping you with is short term, it has a time limit. I'm sending you to uni. The moment you graduate, I don't know you. The moment you graduate, just go and look for a job yourself and take care of yourself. Or you're going to stay in my house for this period of time. This period of time you are looking for a way out. That intentionality is what creates generational wealth. It's what frees us from the curses. Now, another thing with the black tax here that I said is very, very funny. The recipient of the black tax, apart from being very entitled, usually sees you as the bad guy when you start creating boundaries. Because like I said, communication is usually a problem that leads to the black tax. And when you start trying to communicate when you're setting the boundaries, it usually feels like, oh, because you own the money. And most times because you haven't even learned how to communicate properly, you can't carry them along. So there's a lot of work to be done. There's a lot of work to be done by the person sending. There's a lot of work to be done by everybody receiving. All I'm saying is work can be done. That's the idea of this episode. It's a very simple one. Black tax leads to generational poverty in many ways. The increase in consumerism instead of investment, the increase in liabilities instead of assets is what leads to the generational poverty. But when you flip the script, you understand your finances better, you educate your family on the finances. When you are helping them, you budget appropriately, they understand your budget. It makes it easier. Now, One of the craziest things I've heard about black tax here, and it's part of what makes it black causes in this case scenario, is there was a guy that got married for the sole purpose. He got married early for the sole purpose of he's tired of sending money to his family. He felt like they were too much of a burden to him, and his excuse now is, oh, I'm starting my own family. Oh, I can't keep on doing this. I have a baby on the way. Yes, a baby on the way is expensive, but because he could not create the boundary and he could not communicate it, the family member started seeing it as the wife is the one creating the bad mindset. So the wife is receiving curses. The wife is being cursed at, not knowing it's the environment that do not create a space for communication, for clear boundaries, that leads to this kind of resentment, that leads to this kind of behaviors. And it happens a lot. A lot of people do it over and over again. I think a lot of us have seen it once or twice, and we blame the husband, we blame the wife. But it can be done in a way that doesn't have to lead to that, because for family, ideally you don't want to burn bridges. Ideally you don't want to burn bridges for family, and this is a way. Another thing you have to understand here, if you're a married couple and you want to be sending to your family members or your partner's family members, is it has to be a joint effort by both people. There should be transparency, and your family should be aware that it's a joint effort. It helps reduce the burden, one, but it also helps create the impression from the family members to go a little bit easier on you. And that's it, guys. Black tax. We're all about generational wealth. We want to create wealth. A lot of reasons in Nigeria makes us poor, from our government to macroeconomics to many more things. Some are outside of our control. This is one of them that is inside our control, and I'm just putting you on game. You understand? Game to make it better. So see you guys next week. Bye.